We just launched 4 new Shincha teas, and to celebrate, we thought we'd give you a quick crash course on Shincha. We'll be showing you what Shincha tea is, how it's made, and how to prepare it. Before we get started, let's take a brief moment to explain the difference between these 4 teas. These teas are among the first Japanese green teas to be harvested in the year of 2023, and they are the Tanegashima Kuretowase Shincha, Tanegashima Saimidori Shincha, Yakushima Yabukita Shincha, and Yakushima Kuretowase Shincha. The first way these teas are broken down is by cultivar. Just like wine is broken down into different varietals, tea is broken down into different cultivars. These subspecies of tea plants all have slightly different flavor profiles, preferred growing conditions, and leaf characteristics. 2 of the Shincha teas are made using the Kuretowase cultivar, which is a specialty of southern Japan. It's an early budding cultivar, which makes it perfect for Shincha. It yields a pleasant milky aroma and a smooth, less astringent flavor. The Tanegashima Saimidori Shincha is made using the Saimidori cultivar, which is known for its light and sweet flavor. Because this sweeter cultivar is so difficult to cultivate, it's normally reserved for premium Japanese green teas like gyokuro and matcha, but occasionally you will see it in a Shincha like this. Finally, we have the Yakushima Yabukita Shincha, which is made from the Yabukita cultivar. This is the most common tea cultivar in Japan, making up 70% of the total production. It is well liked for its strong, savory, and vegetal flavors. You may be wondering what the words Yakushima and Tanegashima refer to on each of these teas, and these are actually the 2 different islands in the far south of Japan. Off the southern tip of Kyushu, you have the beautiful island of Tanegashima, and even further south you have Yakushima. The island of Yakushima has a very unique climate for Japan, with dense, old-growth forests, steep mountains, and high annual rainfall. This island is home to animals such as the sika deer and red-bottomed macaque. Each of these islands provide a different growing condition for Shincha tea, and therefore the Tanegashima Kuretowase Shincha will have a slightly different flavor from the Yakushima Kuretowase. All of these teas will have a fresh, slightly citrusy flavor that many tea drinkers enjoy. This is part of the reason why Shincha teas are so popular. But what are they exactly? Let's go through the basics of Shincha, and then we'll talk about how to prepare it. What is Shincha tea? Shincha is made by using the leaves from the first picking of the season. These leaves are the youngest, freshest, and are also known for having the highest concentration of nutrients in them. This tea has become famous for its taste and its seasonality, and there's an excitement that builds every year. What's the history of Shincha? People used to wait around all year to be among the first to drink the fresh Shincha harvest in the springtime. Before the use of modern refrigeration, tea had a much shorter shelf life, and in order to get it fresh, it was best to buy it as close to the harvest as possible. Nowadays, it doesn't matter quite as much when you buy the Shincha. Most farmers have a cold storage facility where they can store Shincha green tea until it's ready to be sold. When the tea is kept in these cool, dry environments, it can really maintain its flavor for a much longer time. Shincha tea has now become quite a competitive business. Of course, there's always a competition to be the first company to sell the new Shincha harvest, and there are quite a few tactics a farmer can employ to harvest their Shincha tea earlier. When you grow the tea plants in the south of Japan, spring will come earlier, and so will the young sprouts. When you grow Shincha green tea on the southern island of Kyushu, you can harvest it 2 weeks earlier than the tea grown on the main island of Honshu. Some tea producers will grow their tea in the south, so it can be quickly transported as aracha and finished later. Certain tea cultivars also produce sprouts earlier on in the year. These early budding cultivars like Saimidori can produce sprouts up to a week before Yabukita. Yabukita is the most common cultivar produced in Japan, so all other cultivars are compared to it to determine whether they are early budding or late budding. This week-long advantage may not seem like much, but it can make all the difference when it comes to Shincha tea. How is Shincha tea produced? Shincha tea is produced just like any other type of Japanese green tea. First, the tea is harvested somewhere in between early April and early May. The top sprouts of the tea plant are selected in order to maximize the flavor and the nutrients. Once the leaves have been selected and gathered, they need to be processed immediately. The tea leaves will begin to oxidize naturally over time and eventually become a black tea. Because Shincha is a green tea, this oxidation process needs to be stopped by applying heat. Like most Japanese green teas, the heat is applied with steam, locking in the more grassy and vegetal flavors of the leaf, as well as maintaining its green color. After the leaves have been steamed, they go through a controlled drying process. The tea leaves start out at around 70% moisture, but they need to be brought down to between 4 and 7% to infuse properly. If this drying process is done too quickly, at too high of a heat, the leaves will roast, and this will impact the flavor. Instead, the Shincha leaves are dried slowly over time in a series of ovens and conveyor belts. Right before the Shincha tea leaves are completely dried, they are rolled into these needle shapes. This is done when the leaves have just a little bit of moisture in them and are still pliable. The leaf shapes aren't quite as tight as gyokuro, but more on the level of a sencha. Once the final shape has been achieved, the Shincha green tea leaves are dried once more and packaged. What does Shincha taste like? The flavors of Shincha tea can be described as tart and savory, but there's certainly some sweetness to the tea as well. The tart tartness comes from the catechins in the tea, and the sweet and savory flavors are due to the theanine. The taste of Shincha tea is quite complex, with these smoother and sweeter tones battling these tart or slightly astringent notes. Each sip of this tea is a little bit different, and that leads to an enriching tasting experience. What is the difference between Shincha tea and Sencha if they are both made from the first flush tea anyways? With Shincha, the priority is to be fresh and early, whereas other types of Sencha are blended over time to reach a desired taste profile. While the Shincha can be packaged and sold right away, other teas need time to be evaluated and blended by the Chajin or tea master. As a result, a Shincha green tea produced by the farmer will taste different every year, whereas a Sencha will taste more or less the same with time. If you want a specific flavor profile, go for the Sencha later on in the year, but if you want a seasonal taste every year, try some Shincha green tea. So now that you have your 2023 Shincha tea, let's discuss how you can prepare it at home. First, take 5 grams of green tea leaves and put them in your Kyusu teapot. You can use a tea strainer if you don't have a teapot, but this Kyusu will provide the leaves adequate space to expand and release their flavor, and then it will also separate the leaves out as you pour. Next, you can pour in 150 milliliters of water at a temperature of 70 degrees Celsius or 160 degrees Fahrenheit. If you use boiling water, you will extract too much bitterness from the tea, so it's best to keep it low. Let the leaves sit undisturbed in the water for 1 minute, and then you can pour the tea out. If you're pouring tea for multiple people, you can use the alternate pouring method. The most flavorful part of the tea will sit at the bottom of the teapot, and this will be poured out last, so it's best to alternate to make sure the flavor is evenly distributed. Now that the tea has been poured out, you can now enjoy your fresh, spring-harvested green tea. I hope you have all found this guide helpful. If you have any questions about Shincha or green tea in general, please feel free to leave them in the comments below. We would really appreciate it if you could support our channel by going to neoteas.com and picking up some fresh 2023 Shincha. You can get a great deal on this tea, but it's selling out fast, so don't wait too long. We would also love if you could like this video and subscribe to see more like it in the future. Until then, we'll see you next time.